If you think money can buy silence, you've never met a woman who watched a child suffer. Loretta's voice cut through the Beverly Hills garden like a blade through silk. At the altar, the bride froze. Her perfect smile cracked, and the millionaire felt his heart stop beating. None of them imagined that this black housekeeper, always invisible among the chandeliers and marble floors, carried a secret that would destroy everything. The child in her arms weighed almost nothing. Hollow cheeks, dark circles that told stories no 3-year-old should ever live. When the little girl lifted her head and whispered one word, Daddy, the entire wedding shattered into 1,000 pieces. Before we continue, tell me, where are you watching from right now? What time is it in your city? I love seeing how far these stories travel across the world. Please like and subscribe if you want to see how this story ends, and leave a comment telling me your city. Now, prepare your heart, because what happened before this moment will shake you to your core. Loretta Mae Johnson learned early that the world didn't see people like her. She was 7 years old when her mother, a maid in a white family's house in Mississippi, came home with bruises on her arms and tears she refused to explain. Her mother had knelt down, taken Loretta's small face in her rough hands, and said words that would shape her entire life. Baby girl, sometimes being invisible is how we survive. You watch, you listen, you remember, but you don't speak until speaking is the only thing left. Her mother died when Loretta was 19. Heart attack, the doctor said. But Loretta knew better. Her mother's heart had been breaking for years, worn down by a lifetime of yes ma'am and no sir and pretending not to hear the things white folks said when they thought no one was listening. Loretta never married, never had children. She told herself it was choice, but sometimes, late at night, she wondered if she had simply been too afraid to love something she might lose, so she poured her love into other people's children instead. She had worked for 6 different families over 35 years. She had watched babies become toddlers, become teenagers, become adults. She had loved them all from the shadows, celebrated their victories in silence, mourned their struggles in private. But none of them had ever loved her back. Not really. She was the help, invisible, forgettable. Until Lily Whitmore. Loretta had started working for the Whitmore family 12 years ago when Jonathan was still a young man building his tech empire, and his wife, Claire, was pregnant with their first child. Claire was different from any employer Loretta had ever known. She insisted Loretta eat lunch with her instead of alone in the kitchen. She asked about Loretta's life, her dreams, her opinions. She treated her like a human being. When Claire got sick, Loretta was there. She held Claire's hand during chemotherapy sessions when Jonathan couldn't leave work. She brought her soup when she couldn't keep anything else down. She sat with her through the long nights when fear made sleep impossible. 3 days before Claire died, she had grabbed Loretta's hand with surprising strength. Her eyes were clear despite the morphine focused with desperate intensity. Loretta Claire had whispered, "Promise me something. Anything, Mrs. Whitmore." Claire had shaken her head. "Don't call me that. We're past that now. I'm Claire. And I need you to promise me you'll watch over Lily. Jonathan loves her, but he doesn't see things. He trusts too easily. He believes the best in people even when they don't deserve it." Loretta had felt tears streaming down her face. "I promise." Claire had smiled, then peaceful for the first time in months. "I know you will. I've watched you, Loretta. You see everything. You're the only one I trust." She died 3 days later, holding Jonathan's hand with baby Lily sleeping in the bassinet beside her bed. Loretta had kept her promise. For 3 years, she had watched over Lily with fierce devotion. She had held her through colicky nights when Jonathan was overwhelmed. She had taught her first words, celebrated her first steps, comforted her through every fever and nightmare and scraped knee. The child called her Lolo because she couldn't pronounce Loretta, and that nickname meant more to her than any title she had ever been given. Lily was 3 years old now, a beautiful girl with her mother's auburn curls and her father's stubborn chin. She had Claire's laugh, bright and sudden like sunshine breaking through clouds. She had her father's curiosity, always asking why, always wanting to understand. She was the closest thing to family Loretta had ever known. That Tuesday afternoon in March changed everything. Loretta was polishing the silver in the dining room when she heard the front door open. Voices filled the foyer. A woman laughing. Jonathan's voice lighter than it had been since Claire's funeral. She moved to the doorway and looked. Jonathan stood with a woman Loretta had never seen. Blonde hair like honey, a cream designer suit, a smile that showed perfect teeth but never reached her eyes. "Jonathan," the woman said, "this house is even more beautiful than you described." An older woman stepped in behind her, sharp features, silver hair pulled tight. Her eyes moved across the foyer like an appraiser calculating value. The blonde woman turned. "Mom, come meet Jonathan properly." Diane Caldwell smiled as Jonathan shook her hand. "All good things, I hope," she said. Loretta stepped back into shadows, her stomach twisted. Something was wrong. She felt it the way her mother had taught her to feel storms before the first cloud appeared. She went upstairs to check on Lily. The child was playing with her stuffed elephant Peanut, chattering happily about their imaginary tea party. Lolo, Lily said, looking up with bright eyes, "Peanut wants to know if you'll have cake with us." Loretta knelt down and kissed her forehead. "I would love nothing more, baby girl." She sat with Lily for an hour playing tea party, pushing away the dark feeling that had settled in her chest. But it wouldn't leave. It stayed with her through dinner, through the night, through the following days as Serena Caldwell inserted herself deeper and deeper into Jonathan's life. Loretta watched carefully. She saw Serena transform whenever Jonathan entered her room. Her voice softened, her eyes warmed. Her whole body seemed to orient toward him like a flower toward sunlight. But the moment he left, the transformation reversed. Her eyes went flat, her mouth tightened. Her movements became sharp and impatient. 2 weeks after Serena's arrival, Loretta was bringing fresh towels to the guest bathroom when she heard voices from Serena's room. Mother Serena was saying, "I know what I'm doing. Do you?" Diane's voice was cold. "Because from where I'm standing, you're moving too slowly." He could change his mind. He won't. Serena laughed without humor. "He's pathetic. A sad, lonely man who thinks I actually care about his boring stories and his precious little brat. Give me 6 months. I'll have a ring on my finger and access to everything." Loretta's hands trembled. Towels nearly fell from her arms. "And what about the child?" Diane asked. Serena's voice turned hard. "The child is a problem, but problems can be solved." Loretta backed away silently. Her heart pounded so loud, she was certain they could hear it. She moved down the hallway on shaking legs, those words echoing in her mind. The child is a problem, but problems can be solved. That night, Loretta couldn't sleep. She lay staring at the ceiling, hearing her mother's voice from 47 years ago. You watch, you listen, you remember. She was watching. She was listening. She was remembering everything. The next morning, she found Lily sitting alone in the kitchen, her breakfast untouched. The child's face was pale. "What's wrong?" baby Loretta asked, kneeling beside her. Lily's lower lip trembled. "The pretty lady said Peanut is dirty. She said she's going to throw him away." Loretta felt anger surge through her veins. "Where is Peanut now? I hid him." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "Under my bed. Don't let her take him, Lolo, please." Loretta pulled her into a tight embrace. "Nobody is taking Peanut. I promise you that." She went to find Serena. The woman was in the sunroom scrolling through her phone, looking bored. "Miss Caldwell." Loretta said, keeping her voice steady, "Lily is upset about her elephant." Serena didn't look up. "That ratty thing, it's disgusting. It needs to go. It was a gift from her mother, before she died." Serena finally raised her eyes. Her expression was cold dismissive. "Well, her mother is dead. The child needs to learn to let go." Loretta's hands clenched at her sides. Mrs. Clare specifically wanted Lily to have that elephant. It meant everything to her. Something flickered in Serena's eyes. Calculation. Reassessment. She forced a smile. "You're right," she said sweetly. "I wasn't thinking. Of course Lily should keep her special toy. Thank you for telling me, Loretta." But her eyes told a different story. They said, "I see you now. I see you watching me. And I don't like it." From that day forward, Serena was careful around Loretta. She maintained her performance flawlessly when the housekeeper was nearby. But Loretta noticed the small cruelties she couldn't hide. The way she jerked Lily's arm when helping her out of a chair. The way she spoke to the child in a sugary voice that dripped with contempt. The way she kissed Lily's forehead for photographs and wiped her mouth immediately after. Lily noticed too. The bright, chattering girl grew quieter each day. She stopped singing. She stopped laughing. She started following Loretta everywhere, clinging to her uniform, refusing to be alone. "Lolo," she whispered one afternoon, "why doesn't she like me?" Loretta's heart shattered. She knelt down and took Lily's face in her hands the same way her mother had done so many years ago. "Listen to me, baby girl. Some people have cold hearts. It's not your fault. It's never your fault. You are perfect exactly as you are." Lily's eyes searched hers. "Do you like me, Lolo?" "I love you," Loretta said fiercely, "more than anything in this world." Lily wrapped her small arms around Loretta's neck and held on tight. "I love you too." 3 months after her arrival, Serena got what she wanted. Jonathan proposed at a dinner party with 20 guests watching. He dropped to one knee with a diamond that caught light like a small sun. Serena gasped. Tears sprang to her eyes. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." Guests applauded. Champagne corks popped. Everyone celebrated the happy couple. Everyone except Loretta, who stood in the corner holding a tray watching Serena's Oscar-worthy performance with sick fascination. Later that night, Jonathan found Loretta cleaning in the kitchen. His face glowed with happiness. "Isn't it wonderful, Loretta? Lily is finally going to have a mother again." Loretta set down the dish she was washing. "Mr. Whitmore, do you really know her?" Miss Caldwell Jonathan's smile faltered. "What do you mean?" Loretta chose her words carefully. 3 months isn't very long. Maybe you should take more time." Jonathan's face hardened. He looked at her the way no one had looked at her in 12 years of service, like she was overstepping, like she was forgetting her place. "I appreciate your concern," he said coldly, "but my personal life is not your business. Serena is going to be my wife. I expect everyone in this household to treat her with respect." He walked out without another word. Loretta stood alone in the kitchen, hands trembling in soapy water. She had tried. She had tried to warn him, but she was just the housekeeper. Her words meant nothing, just like her mother, just like every black woman before her who had seen evil and been powerless to stop it. But Loretta was done being powerless. Serena moved in the following week. The real nightmare began. In front of Jonathan, Serena was perfect. She read Lily bedtime stories. She brushed her hair gently. She posed for photos with captions like "My beautiful new family" and "Blessed to be a stepmom." When Jonathan was at work, the mask came off. Loretta witnessed everything. She saw Serena grab Lily's arm hard enough to leave marks when the child spilled juice. "I said be careful," Serena hissed. "Are you stupid? Is that it?" Lily whimpered, I'm sorry." Then Serena looked up and saw Loretta standing in the doorway. The transformation was instant. Her face softened, her voice turned sweet. "Oh, Lily, it's okay. Accidents happen. Let's clean it up together." Lily looked confused. She looked at Loretta with frightened eyes, then back at Serena, who was now smiling warmly. Loretta understood. The child was being taught that reality couldn't be trusted, that the same person could hurt her and comfort her, that she was crazy for thinking something was wrong. Gaslighting. A 3-year-old child. Loretta began documenting everything in a small notebook hidden in her room. April 4th. Serena told Lily to shut up when she asked for a snack. Lily cried. Serena said crying was annoying. April 12th. Diane visited. Heard them discussing trust funds. Diane asked how much Lily inherits. Serena said she was handling it. April 19th. Lily doesn't speak when Serena is around. She used to sing constantly. Now she's silent. April 27th. Found Lily hiding in my closet. She said she was scared, wouldn't tell me why. May 3rd. Lily wet the bed for the first time in a year. Serena called her disgusting, made her strip the sheets herself while crying. May 10th. Overheard Serena on the phone saying the timeline needs to accelerate. She mentioned a place called Serenity House. That name, Serenity House. Loretta wrote it down and circled it 3 times. She tried warning Jonathan again. Found him in his study exhausted from work. "Mr. Whitmore, I'm worried about Lily." Jonathan looked up with tired eyes. "What about her?" "She seems different. Quieter. She doesn't laugh anymore." Jonathan sighed. "She's adjusting. Serena found a therapist who specializes in blended families. Dr. Hartwell says we need to be patient." Loretta felt sick. Serena was controlling the narrative, positioning herself as the caring stepmother struggling with a difficult child. "I understand," Sir Loretta said quietly. "I won't bring it up again." She left knowing she was on her own. That night, Loretta got on her knees for the first time in 30 years and prayed. "Lord," she whispered, "show me what to do. Show me how to save this child." The answer came 3 weeks later. Thursday evening. Loretta was taking out trash when she noticed Marcus, the elderly gardener, standing by the back gate. He had worked for the Whitmore family for 30 years. "Miss Loretta," he said slowly, "I found something." He held out a crumpled paper, a receipt torn and dirty. The letterhead read, Serenity House, an address in Oakland, and an amount that made Loretta's blood freeze. $50,000, paid in cash. "Where did you find this?" Loretta whispered. "Garbage bin behind the garage, the one Miss Caldwell uses." Loretta stared at the receipt. Serenity House, $50,000. Cash. "Have you told anyone else?" Marcus shook his head. "I don't want trouble. But I saw how you watch out for little Lily. I thought you should know." He leaned closer, his old voice dropping to a whisper. "Be careful, Miss Loretta. Those women are dangerous. I've worked here 30 years. I've seen things. And I'm telling you, something evil has come into this house." He walked away before she could respond. That night, Loretta searched online for Serenity House Oakland. Nothing? No website? No reviews? No address match. It was like the place didn't exist. But that receipt was real. $50,000 was real. The next day was Friday. Loretta worked her normal shift watching Serena and Diane plan the wedding in the living room. Something was different. Loretta sensed it immediately. "Where is Lily?" she asked Rosa, the other housekeeper. Rosa shrugged. "Miss Caldwell said she's at a play date." Loretta went upstairs to Lily's room. Everything was in place. Peanut the elephant sat on the bed. Crayons scattered on the desk. Shoes by the door. But the photograph was missing. The silver frame picture of Claire holding baby Lily. It had always been on the nightstand. Loretta searched and found it face down in a drawer hidden under clothes. Her blood boiled. She put the photograph back where it belonged. Then she went to find Lily. The child wasn't at any play date. Loretta found her in the basement, sitting alone in the dark, clutching a torn piece of her blanket. "Lily." Loretta's voice was soft. "Baby, what are you doing down here?" Lily looked up. Her face was pale. Her eyes were red. "She told me to go away. She said I was bothering her. She said if I didn't stay down here, she would put me somewhere I could never bother anyone again." Loretta felt her heart crack open. She knelt down and pulled Lily into her arms. The child was trembling. "Listen to me," Loretta said fiercely. "You are not a bother. You are the most precious thing in this house. Do you understand me? You are loved. You are wanted. And I will never let anyone hurt you." Lily clung to her neck. "Promise, I promise." It was a promise Loretta intended to keep if it was the last thing she did. That weekend, Jonathan took Lily to the zoo, just the two of them. While they were gone, Loretta made her move. She took 3 buses to Oakland. The address led to an industrial district. Abandoned warehouses, cracked sidewalks, graffiti everywhere. Not the kind of place where you'd expect anything costing $50,000. The building was 3 stories of gray concrete, windows boarded or painted black. A rusted chain-link fence surrounded it. No signs, no names, nothing. But there were security cameras, 4 of them watching every approach. Loretta found a spot across the street where she could observe without being seen. She waited. For 2 hours, nothing happened. Then at 4:37 p.m., a black van pulled up. A heavy-set man got out, looked around nervously, and unloaded boxes of supplies. Food, cases of water, bags of rice. Why would an abandoned building need food deliveries? The man disappeared inside. The door closed. The van drove away. Loretta stayed until dark. She saw 2 more women arrive, both with furtive looks, both entering through the same side door. And once, just once, she heard something that made her blood freeze. A child crying. Faint. Muffled. Coming from somewhere deep inside. Loretta went home knowing she had found something terrible. Something involving Serena Caldwell and $50,000 and children hidden in a concrete tomb. But she still needed proof. She needed to get inside. The following Tuesday, Loretta returned to Oakland at 5 a.m. She watched the night shift leave. 3 women exhausted, avoiding each other's eyes. Then the day shift arrived. 4 women. One of them caught Loretta's attention. A small Filipino woman, maybe 50, with graying hair and a bun. She walked differently than the others. She paused at the door. Her lips moved silently in prayer. Her hands shook as she punched in the security code. This woman was struggling with something. Loretta watched her work until 3 p.m. Then the woman left alone and walked 3 blocks to a small Catholic church. Loretta followed. The church was nearly empty. The Filipino woman knelt at the altar, lit a candle, and began to weep. Loretta sat down beside her. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then the woman looked at her with swollen eyes. "Who are you?" "Who are you?" Loretta chose her words carefully. "Someone who heard a child crying in that building." The woman's face crumpled. More tears fell. "I can't," she whispered. "I can't talk about it. My family depends on me." "What happens in that building?" Loretta asked gently. The woman shook her head. "Please don't ask." Loretta reached out and took her hand. "Whatever it is, you don't have to carry it alone. I can see it's destroying you." The woman looked at their joined hands. A black woman and a Filipino woman. Both invisible to the world. Both carrying impossible secrets. Something broke inside her. "My name is Beatrice," she whispered. "Beatrice Santos. And I work in a place where children go to be forgotten." The words hung like smoke. "What does that mean?" Beatrice's voice dropped even lower. "Rich people. Powerful people. Sometimes they have children they don't want. Children who are inconvenient, who stand in the way of inheritance or new marriages. They can't kill them. That would be murder. So they pay to make them disappear." Loretta's stomach turned. Disappear how Serenity House takes them. Keeps them. The children get food enough to survive. A bed, nothing else, no love, no attention, no hope. They're kept until they stop fighting, until they stop asking for their parents, until they become ghosts. And then Beatrice closed her eyes. Then they're moved to other facilities, adopted out illegally, or sometimes they just fade away. Some of them stop eating, stop speaking, stop living even though their hearts still beat. How many? Loretta's voice shook. How many children are in there right now? 18. The youngest is 2 years old. Loretta thought she might vomit. She gripped the pew to steady herself. I have to show you something. She pulled out her phone and found a photo of Lily laughing in the garden. Do you recognize this child? Beatrice looked at the photo. Her face went pale. No, not that one, not yet. But I've seen those women, the blonde one and her mother. They came to tour the facility last month. They asked about procedures, timelines, how quickly a child could be admitted. Loretta felt the world tilt beneath her. They were planning it. Serena and Diane were planning to put Lily in that hellhole. Help me, Loretta said. Please, help me get inside. Help me gather evidence. Beatrice's eyes widened with fear. If they find out, they'll kill me. They've done it before. Workers who talked too much just vanished. I won't let that happen. But right now there's a 3-year-old girl running out of time. I am the only one who can save her. Beatrice looked at the altar, at the candle she had lit, at the cross above. She made the sign of the cross. Come back Thursday, she said. The supervisor takes long lunches. I can get you in for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, Loretta said. That's all I need. She left the church feeling like she had just stepped into the mouth of hell. But she would walk through fire for Lily Whitmore. She would walk through anything. Because 47 years ago, her mother had taught her to watch, to listen, to remember. But her mother had also said, you don't speak until speaking is the only thing left. That time was coming. And when Loretta spoke, the whole world would hear her. I'll focus on the next phase of the story, continuing from where part 1 ended. The narrative will pick up with Loretta's investigation maintaining the tension and emotional depth established in the first part. Lily has taken a critical turning point that propels the investigation into a desperate race against time. I'll track her potential location, gathering critical evidence about Serenity House's dark operations. The infiltration becomes more than just a fact-finding mission. It's now a rescue attempt with high personal stakes. The investigation shifts from methodical to urgent. Each moment counts as Loretta uncovers layers of systematic manipulation within the facility. Her discoveries will reveal a complex network of control and exploitation, with Lily's disappearance serving as the catalyst for exposing the broader conspiracy. Thursday came faster than Loretta expected. She woke at 4 a.m., her body humming with fear and determination. She dressed in plain clothes, it's a dark colors that wouldn't draw attention. She tucked her phone into her pocket, made sure the battery was fully charged, and left the mansion before the sun rose. The bus ride to Oakland felt endless. Every stop, every passenger boarding and exiting, every red light seemed designed to test her patience. She kept checking the time. 5:47 a.m., 6:12 a.m., 6:38 a.m. Beatrice had told her to arrive at exactly 7:15 a.m. The supervisor would leave for her long lunch at 7:30. They would have 15 minutes, maybe 20 if they were lucky. Loretta arrived at 7:10 and found Beatrice waiting at the corner, half hidden behind a rusted dumpster. The Filipino woman looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hands trembled as she handed Loretta a worn gray smock. Put this on, Beatrice whispered. Don't speak to anyone. Keep your head down. Follow me and do exactly what I say. Loretta pulled the smock over her clothes. It smelled like bleach and something else, something sour and sad that she couldn't identify. Are you ready? Beatrice asked. No, Loretta admitted. But I'm going anyway. Beatrice almost smiled. That's the only kind of courage that matters. They approached the side entrance. Beatrice punched in a code and the heavy metal door clicked open. The sound echoed in Loretta's chest like a gunshot. Inside the building was exactly as terrible as she had imagined. Dim hallways stretched in both directions, lit by flickering fluorescent bulbs. The walls were gray concrete, stained with water damage, and something darker. The air was thick, heavy, with the smell of unwashed bodies and industrial cleaner. But it was the silence that hit Loretta hardest. A building full of children, and there was no sound, no laughter, no crying, no voices at all. Where are they? Loretta breathed. Beatrice's face tightened. They learn quickly that noise brings punishment. Follow me. We don't have much time. They moved down the hallway, past doors with small windows reinforced with wire mesh. Loretta glanced through one and felt her soul crack. A child sat on a thin mattress on the floor. A boy, maybe 4 years old, with hollow cheeks and eyes that stared at nothing. He didn't look up when they passed. He didn't move at all. Jesus Christ, Loretta whispered. Don't stop, Beatrice hissed. Keep moving. They passed more rooms, more children, each one worse than the last. A girl who couldn't have been older than 3 rocking back and forth in the corner. A boy with bruises on his arms lying on his side facing the wall. Twins maybe 5 years old holding hands in silence, their eyes following Loretta and Beatrice with a desperate hope that made Loretta want to scream. She forced herself to keep walking. She pulled out her phone and began taking photos. Each click felt like a prayer. Each image was evidence. Proof. Ammunition? How long have some of them been here? Loretta asked. The longest one almost 3 years, Beatrice said quietly. A little girl named Maya. Her father remarried. The new wife didn't want her around. 3 years, Loretta repeated. She was horrified. A child had been rotting in this place for 3 years. They reached a room at the end of the hall. Beatrice stopped. This is the newest one, she said. Arrived 2 days ago. The women who brought her paid double the usual rate. They wanted her processed quickly. Loretta's blood turned to ice. 2 days ago, double the rate. Her hands shook as she reached for the door handle. Wait, Beatrice said. She looked down the hallway, checking both directions. The supervisor will be back in 10 minutes. Whatever you're going to do it fast. Loretta pushed open the door. The room was identical to the others. Gray walls, a thin mattress on the floor, a single window painted black, and in the corner, curled into a ball so small she almost missed her, was a child. Auburn curls, dirty now, matted with neglect. A pink dress, the same one she had been wearing when Loretta last saw her, and clutched in her thin arms, pressed against her chest like a lifeline, was a stuffed elephant. Peanut? The world stopped spinning. No, Loretta breathed. No. She crossed the room in 3 steps and fell to her knees beside the child. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely reach out. Lily, she whispered. Baby girl, it's Lolo. The child didn't move. Lily, please, look at me. Slowly, so slowly, the little girl raised her head. Loretta had prepared herself for many things. She had prepared for Lily to be thin, to be scared, to be changed. But she had not prepared for what she saw in those eyes. Nothing. Lily's eyes were empty, hollow. The bright, curious spark that had defined her was gone, replaced by a blankness that spoke of complete surrender. She looked at Loretta without recognition, without hope, without anything at all. Lily, Loretta choked out, It's me. It's Lolo. Do you remember me? For a long, terrible moment, there was nothing. Then something flickered. Deep in those empty eyes, a tiny light, a memory fighting its way through layers of trauma and despair. Lily's cracked lips moved. Lolo, the word was barely a whisper. Broken, uncertain, as if she wasn't sure the name was real anymore. Yes, baby. Loretta was crying now, as tears streaming down her face. It's me. I'm here. I found you. Lily stared at her for another endless moment. Then her face crumpled. The emptiness shattered, and she let out a sound that Loretta would hear in her nightmares for the rest of her life. It wasn't a cry, it was a wail, a keening animal sound of pure anguish that poured out of her tiny body like blood from a wound. She threw herself into Loretta's arms and clung with desperate clawing fingers. Don't leave me, she sobbed. Don't leave me here. Please, Lolo. Please. Loretta held her so tight she was afraid she might break her. I'm going to get you out. I promise, I'm going to take you home. She wants to hurt me, Lily whimpered against her chest. The pretty lady? She said Daddy doesn't want me anymore. She said I'm garbage. She said nobody will ever come for me. Loretta's heart shattered into a million pieces. Each word was a knife. Each sob was a wound that would never fully heal. She lied, Loretta said fiercely. Your daddy loves you more than anything. He's looking for you right now. He's going to come get you. Promise, I promise. Beatrice appeared in the doorway, her face white with panic. She's coming back early, Beatrice hissed. We have to go now. Loretta looked down at Lily. The child's grip tightened. Her whole body began to shake. No, Lily whimpered. No, don't leave me. Please don't leave me. The words carved pieces out of Loretta's soul. I have to go right now, baby, she said, forcing her voice to stay steady. But I'm coming back. I'm coming back with your daddy, and we're going to take you home. Can you be brave for me? Can you be brave just a little longer? Lily's face was wet with tears. Her lips trembled, but slowly she nodded. I'll be brave, she whispered. That's my girl. Loretta kissed her forehead, tasting salt and dirt and heartbreak. I love you. I love you so much. She forced herself to stand, forced herself to let go, forced herself to walk toward the door. Behind her, Lily's voice followed like a ghost. Lolo, you'll come back? You promise? Loretta turned. She looked at that small broken figure clutching a stuffed elephant in a gray concrete prison. "I promise," she said. "Nothing in this world will stop me." Then she walked out the door and Beatrice closed it behind her. They moved quickly down the hallway, Beatrice leading the way. Loretta's legs felt like rubber. Her heart was pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The side entrance was 20 feet away when a door opened ahead of them. A woman stepped out, heavy-set with cold eyes and a clipboard in her hands. She looked at Loretta and frowned. "Who are you?" Beatrice spoke before Loretta could react. "New worker. Started yesterday. I'm showing her around." The woman's eyes narrowed. "I wasn't informed about any new workers." "The agency called this morning," Beatrice said smoothly. "Last minute. They're short-staffed." The woman studied Loretta for a long moment. Loretta kept her head down, her heart screaming. "Fine," the woman finally said. "But next time I want to be notified before anyone new sets foot in this building. Security protocols exist for a reason." "Yes, ma'am," Beatrice said. "Won't happen again." They walked past the woman and out the side door. The morning air hit Loretta's face like a blessing. She bent over hands on her knees, gasping. "You got what you needed?" Beatrice asked. Loretta nodded. She couldn't speak. The image of Lily's empty eyes was burned into her brain. "Then go," Beatrice said. "Go save that little girl. Save all of them. What about you?" Beatrice shook her head. "I've made my choice. Whatever happens next, at least I'll be able to face God knowing I did one good thing." Loretta grabbed her hand and squeezed it. "You're a good woman, Beatrice Santos." Beatrice's eyes filled with tears. "So are you. Now go, before it's too late." Loretta ran. She ran to the bus stop. She rode 3 buses back to Beverly Hills, her mind racing faster than the wheels beneath her. She had photos. She had video. She had a location. She had proof. But she also had a choice to make. She could go to the police. But that would take time. Paperwork, procedures, and Victoria would be alerted. She could move Lily before anyone arrived. She could go to Jonathan, tell him everything. But would he believe her? Would he act fast enough? Or she could do something else, something dangerous, something that could destroy everything or save everyone. By the time she reached the mansion, Loretta had made her decision. It was 2:47 p.m. when she walked through the back door. The house was quiet. Too quiet. She moved through the hallways, listening, watching. She found Jonathan in his study, staring at his computer screen with red-rimmed eyes. "Mr. Whitmore," she said. He looked up. His face was haggard. He had aged 10 years in 2 days. "Loretta," he said, "something's wrong. I can feel it. Serena took Lily to that school 3 days ago, and I haven't heard anything. She won't let me call. She won't let me visit. She says I need to give Lily space to adjust." Loretta closed the door behind her. "Mr. Whitmore," she said, "there is no school." Jonathan stared at her. "What?" Loretta pulled out her phone. She opened the photos. She handed it to him. "This is where Lily is. This is where your daughter has been for 3 days. It's called Serenity House. It's a place where rich people pay to make their children disappear." Jonathan looked at the photos. His face went white, then gray, then a color Loretta had never seen on a living person before. "No," he whispered. "I was there this morning," Loretta said. "I saw her. She's alive, but she's not okay. They've broken something inside her. She thinks you don't want her anymore. She thinks no one is coming." Jonathan made a sound like a wounded animal. His hands shook so badly the phone nearly fell. "I didn't know," he said. "God help me, I didn't know. She told me it was a special school. She had brochures, testimonials. I believed her. I believed everything she said." "I know," Loretta said. "That's what people like her do. They make you believe." Jonathan looked up at her. His eyes were wild, desperate. "We have to get her out. Right now. Tonight." Loretta shook her head. "If we go now, they'll be waiting. They have security, cameras. They'll move her before we can reach her. Or worse. Then what do we do?" Jonathan's voice cracked. "My daughter is in that place right now alone and scared, thinking her father abandoned her." "What do I do?" Loretta sat down across from him. She spoke slowly, carefully, laying out the plan that had formed in her mind during the long bus ride home. "The wedding is in 11 days, she said. Serena thinks she's won. She thinks no one suspects anything. We use that against her." Jonathan shook his head. "I can't pretend for 11 more days. I can't look at her knowing what she's done." "You have to," Loretta's voice was firm. "Because if you don't, if you give her any sign that something is wrong, she will move Lily somewhere we'll never find her. Is that what you want?" Jonathan was silent. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists. "What's the plan?" he finally asked. "We gather evidence," Loretta said. "Real evidence. The kind that can't be denied. I have photos and videos from inside, but I need more. I need to connect Serena directly to that place. Bank records, communications, witnesses. I can get bank records," Jonathan said. "Our accounts are connected. If she made payments to Serenity House, I can find them." "Good. What about her phone?" "She never lets it out of her sight." "Then we need to be creative." Jonathan was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at Loretta with something new in his eyes. Respect. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. "You could lose everything. Your job. Your freedom if things go wrong. Why risk it all for my daughter?" Loretta thought about her mother. About the bruises she never explained. About the words she had passed down like an inheritance. "Because your wife asked me to," she said simply. "Before she died, Mrs. Clare made me promise to watch over Lily. I keep my promises." Jonathan's eyes filled with tears. He reached out and took Loretta's hand. "I don't deserve your loyalty," he said. "No," Loretta agreed, "but Lily does." They worked through the night. Jonathan pulled financial records while Loretta combed through every detail she could remember from inside Serenity House. They found the payments hidden in a shell company, but traceable. 3 payments totaling $150,000, all made in the last 6 months. They found communications, too. Emails between Serena and someone called the administrator discussing timelines and procedures. One email made Jonathan physically sick. "The asset is secured," Serena had written 3 days ago, proceeding with Phase 2 as planned. "Wedding remains on schedule." She called Lily an asset. Jonathan's voice was barely human. "My daughter." She called her an asset. Loretta didn't respond. There was nothing to say. By 4 a.m. they had assembled a file, evidence, proof, enough to destroy Serena Caldwell and everyone connected to her. "Now comes the hard part," Loretta said. "You have to act normal. For 11 more days, you have to pretend nothing has changed." Jonathan looked at her with haunted eyes. "How?" "You think about Lily," Loretta said. "You think about the moment you're going to walk into that place with police behind you and carry her out. You think about holding her in your arms and telling her it's over. You hold on to that image with everything you have." Jonathan nodded slowly. 11 days, he said. 11 days. The next week was the longest of Loretta's life. She watched Serena plan the wedding with increasing frenzy. Flowers, music, seating charts. Every detail had to be perfect. The woman was obsessed, driven by a desperation that Loretta now understood. The wedding wasn't just about money, it was about legitimacy. Once Serena became Mrs. Whitmore, she would have legal standing, access to accounts, authority over household decisions. She could control when and how Jonathan saw Lily if he ever saw her again at all. The wedding was a deadline. Everything had to happen before those vows were spoken. Jonathan played his part brilliantly. He smiled at Serena. He kissed her cheek. He discussed honeymoon plans with enthusiasm that would have fooled anyone. But at night, when Serena was asleep, he would meet Loretta in his study. They would review the evidence, plan the next steps, count down the days, 10 days, 9 days, 8 days. On the 7th day, something changed. Loretta was dusting in the hallway when she heard Serena on the phone, her voice low and urgent. "I don't care what it costs. Move her tomorrow. There's been too much attention. Someone's asking questions." Loretta froze. "I said tomorrow," Serena snapped. "Before dawn. I don't care where you take her, just get her out of that location." The call ended. Loretta pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding. They were going to move Lily. Tomorrow. Before dawn. 11 days had just become 12 hours. Loretta found Jonathan in his office pretending to work on reports. "They're moving her," she whispered. "Tomorrow morning." Jonathan's face went pale. "What I heard Serena on the phone, someone's asking questions. They're getting nervous. They're going to take Lily somewhere else before dawn." Jonathan stood up so fast his chair fell over. "Then we go tonight," he said. "Right now." "Wait," Loretta said. "We need to think. My daughter is about to disappear forever," Jonathan said through clenched teeth. "There is nothing to think about. If we go in without a plan, we'll fail. They have security. We don't know how many people are inside. We don't know their procedures." "Then what do you suggest?" Loretta's mind raced. They had evidence. They had proof. But they needed help. Professional help. "We call the FBI," she said. "That will take too long. Paperwork. Procedures. By the time they get there, Lily will be gone. Not if we have someone on the inside." Loretta pulled out her phone and dialed a number she had memorized. The phone rang twice before Beatrice answered. "Hello, Beatrice, it's Loretta. They're moving the children tomorrow morning." Silence on the other end. "I know," Beatrice finally said. "They told us tonight. We have to have everyone ready by 4 a.m. Loretta's blood ran cold. 4 a.m. That was 6 hours away. "I need your help," she said. "I need you to stall them. Delay the transfer. Give us time to get there with the police. If I do that, they'll know it was me. I know." Beatrice was quiet for a long moment. "That little girl," she finally said. "The one you showed me the picture of. She's in room 7. She cries for her daddy every night. She asks when someone is coming to get her." Loretta felt tears streaming down her face. "Someone is coming," she said. "We just need a little more time." Beatrice let out a shaky breath. "I'll do what I can," she said. "But you better come fast." "We're coming," Loretta said. "I promise we're coming." She hung up and looked at Jonathan. "Call the FBI," she said. "Tell them everything. Tell them it has to happen tonight. Now." Jonathan was already reaching for his phone. At 11:47 p.m., 3 FBI agents arrived at the Whitmore mansion through the back entrance. They listened to Jonathan's story. They reviewed the evidence. They made phone calls to supervisors and district attorneys and people whose names Loretta didn't recognize. At 1:15 a.m., a team was assembled. 8 agents, 3 vehicles, a warrant signed by a federal judge who had been woken from sleep and told that 18 children were being held in a concrete prison. At 2:30 a.m., they arrived in Oakland. The building looked the same as always. Gray concrete, boarded windows, security cameras watching empty streets. But now there were FBI agents surrounding it. Now there were weapons drawn and body armor strapped tight. Jonathan stood beside Loretta behind a barricade, his whole body vibrating with tension. "I should be in there," he said. "I should be the one to get her." The agent in charge shook his head. "You stay here. We'll bring your daughter out." The team moved in at 2:47 a.m. Loretta watched them breach the side entrance. She heard shouting, commands, the sound of doors being kicked open, and then drifting through the night air, she heard children crying. Not the silent, suppressed crying she had heard before. Real crying. Loud crying. The sound of children who suddenly dared to make noise because someone had finally come. The first child emerged at 2:53 a.m. A small boy carried by an agent, his arms wrapped around the man's neck. Then another, and another. Children who hadn't seen sunlight in months stumbling out into the night, squinting at the flashing lights of police vehicles. Jonathan searched every face. Where is she? Where's Lily? More children emerged. A girl with matted hair, twins holding hands, a teenager who looked like she had forgotten how to walk. But no Lily. Jonathan's breathing grew ragged. Where is she? She should be out by now. Loretta felt fear clawing at her chest. Something was wrong. Then an agent appeared in the doorway. He was carrying something small wrapped in a blanket. He was running. "We need a medic," he shouted. "Now!" Jonathan broke through the barricade before anyone could stop him. "Lily!" he screamed. "Lily!" He reached the agent and saw what he was carrying. A small girl with auburn curls, eyes closed, face pale as death. "She's not breathing," the agent said. "She collapsed when we breached the door." Jonathan fell to his knees. His hands reached for his daughter. "Lily!" he sobbed. "Baby, please, please wake up!" Paramedics swarmed around them. They pulled Lily from the agent's arms and laid her on a stretcher. They pressed an oxygen mask to her face. They began compressions on her tiny chest. Loretta stood frozen, watching, praying, her lips moving in words she didn't know she remembered. "Please, God, please, don't take her. Not like this. Not after everything." The seconds stretched into eternity. Then Lily coughed. Her eyes fluttered open. She looked around, confused, frightened, until her gaze landed on her father kneeling beside her. "Daddy." The word was weak, broken, the most beautiful sound Jonathan had ever heard. "I'm here," he wept, grabbing her hand. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. I came for you, just like I promised." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "You came," she whispered. "You really came." "I will always come for you," Jonathan said. "Always. No matter what. Nothing in this world will ever keep me from you again." Loretta watched them from a distance, tears streaming down her face. 18 children had been rescued that night. 18 families would be reunited. And one little girl who had been thrown away like garbage was finally back in her father's arms. But this wasn't over. Not yet. Because somewhere in Beverly Hills, Serena Caldwell was sleeping peacefully in a mansion she planned to own. She was dreaming of the wedding that would make her rich. She had no idea that her world was about to collapse. And Loretta intended to be there when it did. She intended to watch Serena's face when she realized the help had destroyed her. She intended to see justice done, because 47 years ago, her mother had taught her that sometimes being invisible was how you survived. But her mother had also taught her something else. Sometimes the invisible ones are the only ones who can see the truth. And the truth was coming for Serena Caldwell. It was coming like a storm. The ambulance carrying Lily arrived at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center at 3:47 a.m. Jonathan never let go of her hand, not during the ride, not when they wheeled her through the emergency entrance, not when doctors surrounded her bed asking questions he couldn't answer. Loretta followed in an FBI vehicle, her mind already racing ahead to what came next. Lily was safe. That was the first victory. But Serena was still free. Still sleeping in that mansion. Still believing her plan was intact. That had to change. At 4:15 a.m., Loretta sat in a hospital waiting room while Jonathan stayed with Lily. An FBI agent named Torres sat across from her, a notepad in his hands. "We need to talk about the wedding," Torres said. Loretta looked at him. "What about it?" Torres leaned forward. "We've arrested 6 workers from Serenity House. We've rescued 18 children. But the people who run this operation, the ones at the top, they're still out there. And based on the evidence you've provided, Serena and Diane Caldwell are directly connected to them." "I know," Loretta said. "If we arrest them now tonight, we might spook the bigger players. They'll disappear, destroy evidence, we'll never find them." Loretta understood what he was saying. "You want to use the wedding?" Torres nodded. "The wedding is in 4 days. We have intelligence that several high-level clients of Serenity House are on the guest list. If we wait, if we let the wedding proceed, we can catch them all in one place." Loretta felt her stomach turn. "You want Lily's father to stand at that altar with the woman who tried to destroy his daughter?" "I want to take down an entire network of child traffickers," Torres said. "I want to make sure no other child ever ends up in a place like that. Mr. Whitmore has agreed to cooperate." Loretta stared at him. Jonathan agreed. He understands what's at stake. Loretta shook her head slowly. "That man loves his daughter more than anything. Asking him to pretend for 4 more days to smile at that monster to say wedding vows he doesn't mean. You're asking him to break his own soul." Torres met her eyes. "Sometimes breaking is the only way to save others." Loretta sat in silence for a long moment. She thought about the children she had seen in that building. The hollow eyes. The silent suffering. 18 had been saved, but how many others were still trapped in other facilities, other cities, other states? "What do you need from me?" she finally asked. Torres almost smiled. "I need you to go back to that mansion. I need you to act like nothing has changed. And I need you to watch Serena Caldwell until the moment we take her down." Loretta straightened her spine. "I've been watching her for months. 4 more days won't kill me." But even as she said the words, she wasn't sure they were true. At 6:30 a.m., Loretta returned to the mansion. She entered through the back door just as she always did and began her morning routine. Coffee brewing, floors swept, the quiet rhythm of invisible work. At 8:15 a.m., Serena came downstairs. Loretta watched her from the corner of her eye. The woman looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes that makeup couldn't quite hide. Her movements were jerky, agitated. She doesn't know, Loretta thought, but she senses something is wrong. "Good morning, Miss Caldwell." Loretta said, her voice perfectly neutral. Serena barely glanced at her. "Where's Jonathan? He had an early meeting." Loretta lied smoothly. "Left before dawn. Said he'd be back this afternoon." Serena's eyes narrowed. "He didn't tell me about any meeting." Loretta shrugged. "I just cleaned the house, ma'am. I don't keep his schedule." Serena stared at her for a long moment. Something flickered in her eye. Suspicion. But then she shook her head and walked toward the kitchen. "Make sure the caterer's confirmed for Saturday," she called over her shoulder. "I want everything perfect." "Yes, ma'am," Loretta said, but inside she was thinking Saturday. 4 days. That's when your world ends. The next 72 hours were the longest of Loretta's life. She watched Serena obsess over wedding details with increasing desperation. The flowers weren't right. The seating chart needed adjusting. The music playlist was all wrong. Every small imperfection sent her into a spiral of rage that she barely managed to hide. Diane arrived on Thursday morning, her sharp eyes scanning the mansion as if searching for threats. "Something's wrong," Diane said to Serena when they thought they were alone. Loretta was dusting in the next room, invisible as always, listening to every word. "You're being paranoid," Serena said. "Jonathan hasn't touched you in 3 days. He barely looks at you. And where's that child?" Loretta's heart stopped. They had discussed this. The official story was that Lily had been moved to a special medical facility, a lie that bought time but wouldn't hold forever. "She's being processed," Serena said. "By Sunday, she'll be gone permanently, out of the country. Jonathan will grieve, I'll comfort him, and life will go on. Are you sure the facility is secure?" "Of course I'm sure. I paid triple the usual rate. Nobody's finding that location." Loretta allowed herself a small, grim smile. The location had been raided 2 days ago. Every child had been rescued. But Serena didn't know that. Her contacts hadn't told her because her contacts were in federal custody singing like canaries to avoid life sentences. What about the housekeeper? Diane asked. Loretta froze. What about her? Serena sounded annoyed. She watches you. Haven't you noticed she's always there, always listening? She's the help, Mother. That's what they do. They're furniture. Invisible furniture. Diane was quiet for a moment. I don't trust her. You don't trust anyone. That's why you're still alone at 63. Loretta heard footsteps approaching and quickly moved away, her heart pounding. Diane suspected her. That was dangerous. She needed to be more careful. That night, Jonathan returned to the mansion for the first time since the raid. Loretta watched from the shadows as he greeted Serena with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. She watched him kiss her cheek, his jaw clenched so tight she could see the muscles straining. She watched him sit through dinner making small talk about honeymoon plans while his daughter lay in a hospital bed 20 miles away. He was breaking. She could see it. Every moment in Serena's presence was costing him pieces of his soul. After dinner, when Serena went upstairs to take a bath, Jonathan found Loretta in the kitchen. How is she? He whispered. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking. She's getting stronger, Loretta said. She asked for you this morning. She wanted to know when Daddy was coming back. Jonathan's face crumbled. God, this is killing me. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep smiling at that woman knowing what she did. 2 more days, Loretta said. That's all. 2 more days and this ends. What if I slip? What if she sees through me? She won't. Loretta took his hands in hers. You're doing this for Lily. You're doing this for all those other children. Hold on to that. Jonathan squeezed her hand so tight it hurt. I don't know what I would have done without you, he said. If you hadn't found her, if you hadn't pushed me to see the truth, Lily would be lost forever. Loretta shook her head. You would have found the truth eventually. A father's love can't be fooled forever. But it almost was, Jonathan said. I almost married her. I almost let her destroy everything. Almost doesn't count. What counts is what happens next. Jonathan took a deep breath. 2 more days. 2 more days. Friday arrived with perfect summer weather. The wedding was scheduled for Saturday at 4 p.m. 300 guests had confirmed. Caterers were preparing food that would never be eaten. Florists were arranging flowers that would never be admired. And in a conference room at the FBI field office in Los Angeles, agents were finalizing the biggest operation of their careers. Loretta was there at 9 a.m. reviewing photographs of suspected guests. This one, Agent Torres said, pointing to a silver-haired man in an expensive suit, Alexander Vance. We believe he's the administrator, the one who runs the entire network. He's been invited to the wedding as a business associate of Diane Caldwell. Loretta studied the face. Cold eyes, thin lips, the kind of face that smiled while destroying lives. He'll be there, she asked. Our intelligence says yes, he wants to personally ensure the Caldwell transaction goes smoothly. Transaction. They called it a transaction, as if Lily were a product to be shipped and sold. What do you need me to do? Loretta asked. Torres slid a small device across the table, a tiny camera disguised as a button. Wear this during the wedding. We need footage of Vance interacting with the Caldwells. We need him on record discussing the operation, and then we move in. We arrest everyone connected to Serenity House. We shut down the network permanently. Loretta picked up the button camera. It was light, almost weightless, but it felt heavy with responsibility. What about Lily? She asked. She can't be there. She can't see that woman again. We've arranged for her to be brought to the mansion after the arrests, Torres said. She'll be reunited with her father when it's over. Loretta nodded. Then I guess I have a wedding to attend. She went home to her small apartment that night. She hadn't been there in weeks. Everything felt unfamiliar, dusty, like it belonged to someone else. She sat on her bed and thought about her mother, about the lessons she had learned growing up invisible, about the promise she had made to a dying woman 12 years ago. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tomorrow, the invisible housekeeper would bring down an empire. Loretta closed her eyes and prayed. Saturday, July 19th, the day of the wedding. Loretta arrived at the mansion at 7 a.m. The house was already buzzing with activity. Caterers unloading trucks, florists arranging centerpieces, wedding planners shouting orders into phones. She moved through the chaos like a ghost, invisible as always, the button camera pinned to her uniform. At 10 a.m., she saw Diane Caldwell arrive. The woman was dressed in a silver gown that probably cost more than Loretta's car. Her eyes swept the room, landing briefly on Loretta before moving on. At 12 p.m., the guests began arriving. Expensive cars lined the driveway. Men in tailored suits, Women in designer dresses, the elite of Los Angeles society gathering to celebrate a lie. Loretta watched them laugh and mingle, completely unaware of the darkness they were standing beside. At 2 p.m. she saw him. Alexander Vance, the administrator. He arrived in a black Mercedes accompanied by 2 men who were clearly bodyguards. He was taller than Loretta expected, more distinguished, the kind of man who commanded respect without asking for it. Diane greeted him at the door with a kiss on each cheek. "Alexander?" she said, "so glad you could make it." "I wouldn't miss it," Vance replied. His voice was smooth, cultured, with a slight accent Loretta couldn't place. "This is quite the celebration. It's the beginning of a beautiful new chapter," Diane said. "Everything is proceeding exactly as planned." Loretta felt her blood run cold. She was looking at evil, real tangible evil, dressed in a $3,000 suit. She followed them at a distance, making sure her button camera captured everything. At 3 p.m., Serena emerged from her dressing room. She looked stunning. A white gown that flowed like water, a veil that sparkled with tiny crystals, perfect makeup, perfect hair, the perfect bride, the perfect monster. Jonathan stood at the altar at 3:30 p.m. His face was composed, but Loretta could see his hands trembling at his sides. He had dark circles under his eyes. He had lost weight in the past week. He looked like a man walking to his own execution. Agent Torres caught Loretta's eye from across the garden. He gave her a small nod. They were in position. 20 agents hidden among the guests. The caterers, the staff. Waiting. The music started at 3:55 p.m. The guests rose from their seats. All 300 of them turned to watch the bride. Serena appeared at the end of the aisle, her arm linked with her mother's. She was smiling, radiant, triumphant. This was her moment. Everything she had schemed and lied and destroyed for was finally within reach. She walked down the aisle, slowly savoring every step. The guests sighed at her beauty. Cameras flashed. Everything was perfect. She reached the altar at 4:02 p.m. Jonathan took her hands. His grip was stiff, mechanical, but he forced a smile. The officiant began to speak. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of Jonathan Alexander Whitmore and Serena Marie Caldwell in holy matrimony." Loretta watched from the side of the garden, her heart pounding. Not yet. The signal hadn't come yet. The officiant droned on about love and commitment and partnership, words that meant nothing, lies dressed up as vows. "Do you, Jonathan, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Jonathan's face was pale. His jaw was clenched. Loretta could see the war raging inside him. "Say it," she thought. "Just say it." "We're almost there." "I do," Jonathan said. The words came out strangled, barely audible. "And do you, Serena, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold from this day forward for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, until death do you part?" Serena's smile widened. "I do," the officiant nodded. "If anyone present knows of any reason why these two should not be joined in marriage, speak now or forever hold your peace." Silence. 300 guests held their breath. Loretta saw Agent Torres move his hand toward his earpiece. The signal. It was time. Loretta stepped forward. "I have a reason," she said. Her voice cut through the garden like a blade. Every head turned. 300 pairs of eyes fixed on the black housekeeper in her plain gray uniform. Serena's smile froze. "What are you doing?" she hissed. "Get back to your place." Loretta walked toward the altar. She felt calm now, steady. Everything she had watched, everything she had listened to, everything she had remembered was about to matter. "This woman is not who she claims to be," Loretta said. Her voice carried across the garden, clear and strong. "She is a criminal, a child trafficker, a monster." The guests gasped. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Serena's face twisted with rage. "This is insane! Security, remove her, immediately." 2 security guards moved toward Loretta. She didn't flinch. 3 days ago, Loretta continued FBI agents raided a facility called Serenity House. 18 children were found there. Children who had been abandoned by wealthy parents. Children who were being starved, neglected, and prepared for sale. The murmurs grew louder. Some guests were standing now, confused, alarmed. One of those children, Loretta said, her voice breaking for the first time, was Lily Whitmore. Jonathan's daughter. This woman's stepdaughter. The garden fell silent. Jonathan stepped away from Serena. His face was a mask of fury and grief. "You took my daughter," he said. His voice shook with barely contained rage. "You paid $50,000 to have her locked in a concrete prison. You told me she was at a school. You looked me in the eyes and lied while my child was being tortured." Serena's composure cracked. "Jonathan, darling? I don't know what she's told you, but this is all a misunderstanding. I would never hurt Lily. I love her." "You called her an asset," Jonathan spat. "I saw the emails. You called my daughter an asset and discussed her disposal like she was garbage." The guests were in chaos now. Some were trying to leave. Others were filming on their phones. The perfectly planned wedding was disintegrating into pandemonium. Diane Caldwell pushed forward, her face pale with fury. "This is slander," she screamed. "This is defamation. We'll sue you for everything you have." Loretta looked at her with cold contempt. "I have nothing. I'm just the help. But I have something you don't have, Mrs. Caldwell. I have the truth." She pointed to Alexander Vance, who was trying to slip away through the crowd. "That man," Loretta said loudly, "is the head of the entire network. His name is Alexander Vance. He runs Serenity House and at least 6 other facilities across the country. He's been trafficking children for over a decade." Vance froze. His bodyguards reached for their weapons, but they were too late. "FBI," someone shouted. "Everybody freeze." Agents emerged from everywhere. From the crowd, from the catering staff, from behind the flower arrangements. 20 agents with weapons drawn surrounding the altar. "Alexander Vance," Agent Torres announced, "you are under arrest for child trafficking, conspiracy, and racketeering. You have the right to remain silent." Vance's face went white. He tried to run, but 2 agents tackled him before he could take 3 steps. Serena Caldwell Torres continued, "You are under arrest for child endangerment, conspiracy to commit trafficking, and fraud." "No," Serena screamed. "No, this isn't happening. Jonathan, tell them this is a mistake. Tell them." But Jonathan had already turned away. He was walking toward the garden gate where a black SUV had just pulled up. The door opened. A small figure emerged. Auburn curls, hazel eyes, a pink dress that matched the roses. Lily. Jonathan broke into a run. He crossed the garden in seconds and swept his daughter into his arms. Daddy, Lily cried, burying her face in his neck. "Daddy, I missed you so much." "I'm here," Jonathan sobbed. "I'm here, baby. Daddy's here. It's over. It's all over." Loretta watched them through tears. The father holding his daughter. The child who had been thrown away finally back where she belonged. Then Lily looked up. Her eyes scanned the chaos of the garden until they found Loretta. "Lolo," she called out. "Lolo, you came." Loretta walked toward them. She knelt down beside Jonathan, who still held Lily in his arms. "I promised," Loretta said. "I told you I would come back, and I always keep my promises." Lily reached out with one small hand and touched Loretta's face. "You saved me," she whispered. "You're my angel." Loretta couldn't speak. The tears were falling too fast. Behind them, Serena was being led away in handcuffs, screaming obscenities. Diane was being arrested beside her, silent, now her sharp eyes finally showing fear. Alexander Vance was surrounded by agents, his empire crumbling around him. The wedding guests were being detained for questioning. Phones were being confiscated. The perfect celebration had become a crime scene. But none of that mattered to Loretta. All that mattered was the small girl in her father's arms, looking at her with eyes that had finally regained their spark. All that mattered was the promise she had kept. All that mattered was that Lily was safe. Jonathan stood up still, holding his daughter. He looked at Loretta with tears streaming down his face. "Thank you," he said. "Thank you for seeing what I couldn't see. Thank you for fighting when I didn't know how to fight. Thank you for saving my daughter." Loretta shook her head. "I just did what her mother asked me to do. I watched over her." "You did more than that," Jonathan said. "You gave her back to me. You gave both of us a second chance." He reached out with his free hand and took Loretta's. "You're family now," he said. "Whatever happens next, you're part of this family. Forever." Loretta looked at Jonathan, at Lily, at the chaos behind them, and the peace ahead. She thought about her mother, who had spent her whole life being invisible. She thought about Claire, who had seen something in her that no one else had seen. She thought about all the years of watching and listening and remembering, all leading to this moment. "Forever," she repeated. And for the first time in 54 years, Loretta Mae Johnson didn't feel invisible anymore. She felt seen. She felt valued. She felt like she finally belonged. The hours after the wedding felt like a dream Loretta couldn't wake from. Police vehicles filled the driveway. Helicopters circled overhead. News vans lined the street. Reporters shouting questions at anyone who emerged from the property. Jonathan took Lily inside the mansion, away from the chaos, away from the cameras. Loretta followed closing doors behind them, creating a bubble of quiet in the middle of the storm. They sat in the living room, Lily curled in her father's lap, her small fingers gripping his shirt like she was afraid he might disappear. "I don't want to sleep," she whispered. "What if I wake up and I'm back there?" Jonathan held her tighter. "You're never going back there, I promise you. That place is gone forever." "But she's still here," Lily said. "The pretty lady, she's still in our house." Loretta knelt beside them. "No, baby, she's gone too. The police took her away. She can never hurt you again." Lily's eyes searched Loretta's face. "You promise, I promise." But even as she said the words, Loretta knew it wasn't that simple. Serena was gone, yes, arrested, but the damage she had done would take years to heal, maybe a lifetime. Agent Torres knocked on the door at 8:47 p.m. "We need to talk," he said to Jonathan. "There have been developments." Jonathan looked down at Lily, who had finally fallen asleep in his arms. "Loretta, can you take her upstairs?" Loretta nodded. She lifted Lily gently, cradling her against her chest. The child stirred, but didn't wake. "I'll stay with her," Loretta said. "Take as long as you need." She carried Lily to her bedroom and laid her on the bed. The room had been cleaned while they were gone. Fresh sheets, new toys, everything arranged to welcome a little girl home. But the silver-framed photograph of Claire was still on the nightstand, exactly where Loretta had placed it months ago. She sat in a chair beside the bed, watching Lily sleep. The child's face was peaceful now, but even in sleep, her hand reached out, searching for something to hold on to. Loretta took her hand and held it. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." Downstairs, Jonathan was learning the full scope of what Serena had done. "We've been investigating Serenity House for 3 years, Torres explained. But we could never get inside. No one would talk. The people who ran it were too careful, too connected." "Until now," Jonathan said. "Until now," Torres paused. "Your housekeeper gave us everything we needed. Names, locations, financial records. She's the reason we were able to move so quickly." Jonathan shook his head slowly. "I almost fired her, a month ago when she tried to warn me about Serena. I told her to mind her own business. I told her my personal life wasn't her concern." Torres leaned forward. "Mr. Whitmore, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot of brave people. Cops, agents, soldiers. But what Loretta Johnson did going into that facility alone, gathering evidence, risking her life for a child who wasn't even her own, that's a different kind of courage. That's the kind that changes the world." Jonathan was quiet for a long moment. "What happens now?" he finally asked. Now we build our case. Serena and Diane Caldwell are being held without bail. Alexander Vance is in federal custody, but they're not the only ones." "What do you mean?" Torres pulled out a folder and laid it on the table. "We found records at Serenity House, client lists, payment histories. Over the past decade, that facility has processed more than 200 children." Jonathan felt sick. 200 Torres nodded. "Some were adopted illegally, some were moved to other facilities, and some," he paused, his face grim, "some we haven't been able to account for." Jonathan closed his eyes. "Dear God, we need your help," Torres said. "Your testimony, your platform. Serena's defense team is going to try to discredit Loretta. They'll say she's a disgruntled employee, that she made everything up. We need people to believe that what happened to Lily is real." Jonathan's eyes snapped open. "You want me to testify? I want you to tell your story. The whole country is watching right now. They've seen the videos from the wedding. They know something happened. But they don't know the whole truth. If you speak out, if you show them what was done to your daughter, it could change everything." Jonathan looked toward the stairs, thinking of Lily sleeping above. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said. "But I need to talk to Loretta first." He found her still sitting beside Lily's bed, holding the child's hand. She looked up when he entered. "How is she?" Jonathan whispered. "Sleeping. Finally." Loretta's voice was tired. "What did the FBI want?" Jonathan sat down on the edge of the bed. He told her everything Torres had said. The investigation, the client lists, the 200 children, the need to testify. Loretta listened in silence. "They want us to go public," Jonathan said. "Tell our story, put a face on what happened." "And what do you want?" Loretta asked. Jonathan looked at his daughter's sleeping face. "I want Lily to heal. I want her to forget this ever happened. But I know she won't. The scars are too deep. So if telling our story can help other children, if it can prevent other families from going through this, then I have to do it." Loretta nodded slowly. "Then we do it together." Jonathan reached out and took her hand. "Together," he repeated. The next morning, July 20th, Jonathan Whitmore held a press conference on the front steps of his mansion. Loretta watched from inside Lily in her arms as he stood before dozens of cameras and told the world what Serena Caldwell had done. "My daughter was taken from me," Jonathan said, his voice steady despite the tears on his face. "She was locked in a facility designed to break children's spirits. She was starved, neglected, made to believe her own father had abandoned her. And none of this would have been discovered if not for one woman. A woman who saw what I couldn't see. A woman who fought when I didn't know how to fight. Her name is Loretta Mae Johnson. She saved my daughter's life. And I owe her a debt I can never repay. The news went viral within hours. Loretta's name trended on social media. Her face appeared on every news channel. Reporters camped outside the mansion begging for interviews. But Loretta refused them all. I didn't do this for attention, she told Jonathan. I did it for Lily. I know, Jonathan said. But people need to hear your voice. They need to see that heroes don't always look the way they expect. Loretta shook her head. I'm not a hero. I'm just a woman who kept a promise. On July 22nd, 2 days after the press conference, Loretta received a phone call that changed everything. Miss Johnson. The voice was female hesitant. My name is Margaret Chen. I saw you on the news. I need to tell you something. Loretta's heart began to race. What is it, my daughter Margaret said, her voice breaking. My daughter was taken 6 years ago. I've been looking for her ever since. The police said she ran away. But I knew someone had taken her. Loretta gripped the phone tighter. Where is she now? I don't know. Margaret was crying openly now. But I saw the pictures from that facility, the children you rescued. One of them a girl with dark hair and a birthmark on her left shoulder. That's my baby. That's my Maya. Loretta felt the room spin around her. Maya, the girl Beatrice had mentioned, the one who had been at Serenity House for 3 years. Mrs. Chen, Loretta said carefully, I need you to contact the FBI immediately. Tell them everything you told me. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. Margaret paused. Miss Johnson, do you think she's alive? Do you think my daughter is still alive? Loretta thought about the hollow-eyed children she had seen in that building, the ones who had stopped hoping, the ones who had learned that no one was coming. I don't know, she said honestly, but I pray she is, and I pray you find her. She hung up and immediately called Agent Torres. We have a lead, she said. A mother looking for her daughter, a girl named Maya with a birthmark on her left shoulder. Torres was silent for a moment. We found her. She was one of the 18. She's in foster care now, receiving medical treatment. Loretta felt tears spring to her eyes. She has a mother, a real mother who's been looking for her for 6 years. Torres let out a long breath. I'll make the call. We'll arrange a reunion. That afternoon, Loretta watched through a window as Margaret Chen was reunited with her daughter. Maya was 12 years old now, thin, scared, eyes that had seen too much pain. She stood stiff as her mother approached, uncertain, guarded. But then Margaret dropped to her knees and opened her arms. My baby, she sobbed. My sweet, sweet baby. Mommy found you. Mommy never stopped looking. Something broke inside Maya. The walls she had built, the armor she had forged through years of abandonment, crumbled in an instant. She ran into her mother's arms and held on like she would never let go. Loretta turned away, wiping her eyes. That reunion was private, sacred, not meant for anyone else to witness. But it gave her hope. If Maya could be found, maybe others could too. The investigation expanded rapidly over the following weeks. Torres called daily with updates. The client list from Serenity House had led to arrests in 7 states. 43 children had been recovered. 62 people had been charged with crimes ranging from child endangerment to human trafficking. And it was all connected to Alexander Vance. Vance had built his empire over 20 years operating in the shadows, serving wealthy clients who wanted to dispose of inconvenient children. He had politicians in his pocket, judges, lawyers, a network of protection that had kept him untouchable for 2 decades. Until Loretta Mae Johnson walked into a church in Oakland and convinced a Filipina caretaker to tell the truth. The trial began on September 15th. Loretta was called as the first witness. She walked into the federal courthouse wearing a simple black dress, her head held high. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, photographers, family members of victims, and at the defense table, Serena Caldwell dressed in orange, her once perfect hair pulled back, her eyes burning with hatred. Loretta met those eyes and didn't look away. The prosecutor approached. Miss Johnson, can you describe for the court how you first became aware of the defendant's activities? Loretta took a deep breath. I watched her, she said simply. I'm the housekeeper. It's my job to clean, to be invisible, to see nothing and say nothing. But I couldn't stay silent, not when a child was in danger. She spoke for 3 hours. She described everything, the conversations she had overheard, the changes in Lily's behavior, the receipt Marcus had found, her trips to Oakland, the children she had seen in that building. The courtroom was silent throughout her testimony. Even the reporters stopped writing, transfixed by the quiet power of her voice. When the defense attorney rose to cross-examine, he tried to discredit her. "Miss Johnson, isn't it true that you had conflicts with my client, that she complained about your work performance?" Loretta looked at him steadily. "Miss Caldwell never complained about my work. She barely noticed I existed. That was her mistake. And isn't it possible that you fabricated this entire story out of jealousy, that you resented a younger woman coming into the household?" Loretta almost smiled. "I'm a 54-year-old housekeeper. I've spent my whole life cleaning up after people who didn't bother to learn my name. I have nothing to be jealous of. I have nothing to gain from lying. The only thing I wanted was to keep a promise I made to a dying woman 12 years ago." The defense attorney fumbled for a response. No further questions, he finally muttered. Loretta stepped down from the witness stand and walked past the defense table. Serena glared at her with pure venom. "You ruined everything," Serena hissed. Loretta stopped. She turned and looked at the woman who had tried to destroy a child for money. "No," she said quietly. "You ruined yourself. I just made sure the world saw the truth." She walked out of the courtroom without looking back. Jonathan testified on September 18th. He described the manipulation, the lies, the gradual isolation from his daughter. He showed the court the emails between Serena and Alexander Vance. He played the recordings Loretta had made inside Serenity House. And then he asked to show one more piece of evidence. The prosecutor handed him a photograph. "This is my daughter," Jonathan said, holding up the image. "This was taken the day before Serena took her away. 3 years old, happy, healthy, full of life." He reached for another photograph. "And this," he said, his voice breaking, "is my daughter on the day she was rescued." 3 weeks later. 9 pounds lighter. Eyes that had forgotten how to hope. This is what they did to her. This is what money buys when humanity has a price tag. The jury foreman was crying. Several jurors had to look away. Serena's attorney objected that the photographs were prejudicial. The judge overruled him. The truth, the judge said, is always prejudicial to those who want to hide it. The trial lasted 6 weeks. On October 28th, the jury returned a verdict. Serena Caldwell, guilty on all counts. Diane Caldwell, guilty on all counts. Alexander Vance, guilty on all counts. Loretta sat in the gallery holding Lily's hand as the verdicts were read. The child had insisted on being there. She wanted to see, she said. She wanted to know it was really over. When the word guilty echoed through the courtroom, Lily looked up at Loretta. "Does this mean she can't hurt anyone else?" Loretta squeezed her hand. "That's exactly what it means, baby." Lily nodded slowly. "Good." Sentencing came 3 weeks later. Serena Caldwell received 35 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole. Diane Caldwell received 40 years. She would die behind bars. Alexander Vance received life without parole. His empire was dismantled. His assets were seized. Everything he had built was destroyed. But that wasn't the end. The investigation continued for months. More facilities were discovered, more children were rescued, more families were reunited. In total, 173 children were recovered from the network Alexander Vance had built. 173 lives saved because one woman refused to stay silent. Beatrice Santos was granted immunity for her cooperation. The FBI helped her obtain legal residency, and Jonathan hired her to work for a foundation he was creating. She would spend the rest of her career helping to identify children in danger, using her knowledge to save others the way she had helped save Lily. Marcus, the old gardener who had found the receipt that started everything, retired with a pension from Jonathan that would keep him comfortable for the rest of his life. At his retirement party, he pulled Loretta aside. "I almost threw that receipt away," he said. "I almost convinced myself it wasn't my business." "But you didn't," Loretta said. Marcus shook his head. "Because I saw you. I saw how you watched over that little girl, and I thought if she's willing to fight for a child that isn't hers, maybe I should be willing to do something too." Loretta hugged him. "You did more than something. You gave me the first piece of the puzzle." "We did it together," Marcus said. "All of us, invisible people, we did it together." On December 15th, 5 months after the wedding that never was, Jonathan called Loretta into his study. She found him sitting at his desk. All papers spread before him. "I've been thinking," he said, "about the future, about what comes next." Loretta sat down across from him. "And what have you decided?" Jonathan pushed a document across the desk. "I'm starting a foundation, the Claire Whitmore Foundation. It will focus on identifying and rescuing children in trafficking situations, finding families, providing resources for survivors." Loretta looked at the document. It was a formal offer of employment. I want you to run it, Jonathan said. Not as an employee, as a partner. Equal say in every decision, equal share in everything we build. Loretta's hands trembled as she held the paper. Mr. Whitmore, I'm a housekeeper. I don't know anything about running a foundation. Jonathan smiled. You know how to see what others miss. You know how to listen when everyone else is talking. You know how to fight for children who can't fight for themselves. That's more valuable than any degree or title. Loretta looked at the paper for a long moment. She thought about her mother who had spent her life being invisible. She thought about Claire who had seen her true worth. She thought about Lily who had called her an angel. I have one condition, she said. Name it. I still want to clean. Once a week at least. This house, these rooms, they're where I found myself. I don't want to lose that. Jonathan laughed, really laughed for the first time since everything had begun. Deal, he said. You can clean anything you want. They shook hands. And just like that, Loretta Mae Johnson went from being the help to being a partner in an organization that would go on to save thousands of children. But that night, she didn't think about the future. She sat in Lily's room, reading her a bedtime story the same way she had done for years. Lily was healing, slowly. Some nights she still woke up screaming. Some days she still flinched at loud noises. The trauma would never fully disappear. But she was laughing again, playing again, asking questions about everything the way she used to, Lily said as Loretta finished the story. Yes, baby, will you stay with us forever? Loretta set down the book. She looked at this child she had fought for, bled for, nearly died for. Forever, she said. I promise. Lily smiled and closed her eyes. Good, she murmured as sleep took her. Because you're my family now. You and Daddy, my real family. Loretta sat in the quiet room listening to Lily breathe. She thought about all the years she had spent feeling invisible, worthless, like she didn't matter. She thought about her mother's words from so long ago. Sometimes being invisible is how we survive. But her mother had been wrong about one thing. Being invisible wasn't just about survival. Sometimes being invisible meant you could see things others missed. Sometimes it meant you could move through the world unnoticed until the moment you needed to act. Sometimes the invisible ones were the only ones who could save the visible. And sometimes, just sometimes, being invisible was the greatest power of all. Loretta leaned down and kissed Lily's forehead. Then she walked out of the room, leaving the door open just a crack, letting the light from the hallway shine in. Because children who had been locked in darkness needed to know that light was always close by. And Loretta intended to be that light for as long as she lived. 6 months had passed since the verdicts. 6 months since Serena Caldwell and her mother were led away in chains. 6 months since Alexander Vance's empire crumbled to dust. But for Loretta Mae Johnson, the work was just beginning. The Claire Whitmore Foundation opened its doors on January 3rd in a renovated building in downtown Los Angeles. Jonathan had purchased the property and rebuilt it from the ground up, creating a space designed specifically for healing. There were offices for caseworkers, meeting rooms for families, a playroom filled with toys for children who had forgotten how to play. And at the center of it all was Loretta. She arrived at 6 a.m. every morning before anyone else. She made coffee. She reviewed case files. She prepared for the day ahead. Old habits died hard, and even as a foundation partner, she still found comfort in the quiet rituals of service. At 8:15 a.m. on a Tuesday in late January, her phone rang. Miss Johnson, the voice was young, trembling. My name is Detective Sarah Morrison. I'm calling from Phoenix, Arizona. We have a situation. Loretta set down her coffee. Tell me. We received a tip about a house in the suburbs. Neighbors reported strange activity, children who never went outside, adults who only came and went at night. We executed a search warrant this morning. Loretta's heart began to race. What did you find? 7 children, ages 4 to 11? They've been there for at least 2 years. The people who ran the house, they fled before we arrived. But we found records, financial transactions, and Miss Johnson, those transactions trace back to accounts connected to Alexander Vance. Loretta closed her eyes. Vance was in prison for life, but his network was still operating. Like a hydra cutting off one head only revealed 2 more. The children, she said. How are they scared? Malnourished. One of them hasn't spoken a word since we found her. We don't know who they are. No identification, no records. It's like they never existed. Loretta grabbed her notepad. I'm on the next flight to Phoenix. Don't let anyone near those children until I get there. She hung up and immediately called Jonathan. We have a situation, she said. Arizona, 7 children, Vance's network. Jonathan didn't hesitate. I'll have the jet ready in an hour. 2 hours later, Loretta was in the air, flying toward another nightmare. The Phoenix police station was chaos when she arrived. Officers rushing through hallways, phones ringing constantly. Everyone looked exhausted, overwhelmed. Detective Morrison met her at the entrance. She was young, maybe 30, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. "Thank you for coming," Morrison said. "I've heard about your work, the children you've helped recover. I was hoping you could reach these kids because we can't. Take me to them." The children were in a temporary holding area that had been converted into a makeshift shelter. 7 small figures huddled together on cots, their eyes wide and frightened. Loretta's heart broke. She had seen this before. The hollow stares, the flinching at sudden movements, the way they pressed together for protection, a pack of wounded animals who had learned that adults meant pain. She approached slowly, her movements deliberate and non-threatening. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Loretta. I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help." The children stared at her in silence. A small boy, maybe 6 years old, edged forward slightly. His eyes were huge in his thin face. "Are you going to take us back?" he whispered. Loretta knelt down to his level. "Back where the dark place, where they keep the bad children." Loretta felt tears prick her eyes. "No, baby, I'm never taking you to any dark place. The dark places are gone now. I'm here to take you somewhere with light." The boy studied her face for a long moment. Then he did something that made every officer in the room gasp. He reached out and took her hand. Loretta held his small fingers, gently feeling them tremble. "What's your name?" she asked. "I don't remember," he said. "They called me number 4. Something inside Loretta hardened into steel. They had taken these children's names, stripped away their identities, reduced them to numbers. "Well," she said, her voice fierce with controlled anger, "we're going to find your real name. And until we do, you can pick any name you want. What would you like to be called?" The boy thought for a moment, his brow furrowed with concentration. "Michael," he finally said. "Like the angel, the one who fights monsters." Loretta smiled through her tears. "Michael it is, and you know what, Michael, I fight monsters too." Over the next 3 days, Loretta worked with the Phoenix children around the clock. She coaxed their stories out slowly, gently, never pushing too hard. She learned that they had been moved multiple times, always in the middle of the night, always to another anonymous house in another anonymous city. She learned that they had been taught to fear everyone, especially people who claimed to want to help. But most importantly, she learned their real names. Michael was actually David Chen, kidnapped from a shopping mall in San Diego when he was 4. His parents had never stopped looking for him. The silent girl, the one who hadn't spoken since the rescue, was Emma Rodriguez. She was 11 years old. She had been sold by her own uncle to pay off gambling debts. Each story was worse than the last, each revelation another wound in Loretta's heart. But she didn't stop. She couldn't stop, because somewhere out there families were waiting, parents were praying, and these children deserved to go home. On the 4th day, Loretta made the first reunion call. "Mrs. Chen, this is Loretta Johnson from the Claire Whitmore Foundation. I'm calling about your son David." The scream that came through the phone was primal, raw, a mother's grief transformed in an instant to overwhelming joy. "He's alive," Mrs. Chen sobbed. "My baby is alive. He's alive," Loretta said, tears streaming down her own face. "And he wants to come home." The reunion happened the next morning. Loretta stood back and watched as David, who now wanted to keep his chosen name Michael, ran into his mother's arm. Mrs. Chen collapsed to her knees, holding her son, rocking him back and forth, repeating his name over and over like a prayer. "I never gave up," she wept. "I never stopped believing. Every night I prayed. Every morning I hoped. And you came back to me. You came back." Michael clung to his mother with fierce desperation. "I tried to remember you," he said. "They told me you didn't want me anymore. But I didn't believe them. I knew you were looking. I knew someone would come." He looked at Loretta over his mother's shoulder. "She came," he said. "The monster fighter. She found me." Mrs. Chen looked up at Loretta with eyes overflowing with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you for bringing my son home." Loretta nodded, unable to speak. This was why she did this work, this moment, this reunion, this restoration of something precious that had been stolen. This was worth everything. But not all stories had happy endings. Emma Rodriguez, the silent girl, had no family to return to. Her mother had died of an overdose 2 years after Emma disappeared. Her father was in prison. Her uncle, the one who had sold her, had fled the country. She had no one. Loretta sat with her in the shelter on the 5th night, watching the 11-year-old stare at nothing. Emma, Loretta said gently, "Can you hear me?" No response. "I know you've been hurt," Loretta continued. "I know you've learned that trusting people leads to pain, but I want you to know something. Not everyone will hurt you. Some people want to help. Some people will fight for you even when you can't fight for yourself. Still nothing. Loretta reached into her pocket and pulled out a photograph. It was a picture of Lily taken just last week. The little girl was laughing, her auburn curls bouncing, her eyes bright with joy. "This is Lily," Loretta said. She was hurt too. By people who should have protected her. She was put in a dark place. She stopped talking. She stopped hoping. But then she came home. And slowly, very slowly, she learned to smile again. Emma's eyes flickered toward the photograph. "It takes time," Loretta said. "It takes patience. But healing is possible. I've seen it. I've lived it." Emma's lips moved. The first movement Loretta had seen in 5 days. How? The word was barely a whisper, cracked and rough from disuse. Loretta felt her heart leap. "How what, sweetheart? How do you learn to hope again?" Loretta reached out and gently took Emma's hand. "One day at a time," she said. "One small moment at a time. You don't have to believe everything will be okay. You just have to believe that maybe, possibly tomorrow might be a little bit better than today. Can you do that?" Emma looked at their joined hands. A tear slipped down her cheek. "I don't know," she whispered. "That's okay." Loretta squeezed her hand. "You don't have to know yet. I'll believe for both of us until you're ready." Emma looked up at her with eyes that had seen too much pain for 11 years of life. "Why do you care?" she asked. "You don't know me. I'm nobody." Loretta leaned forward, her voice fierce. "You are not nobody. You are Emma Rodriguez. You are 11 years old. You survived things that would have broken most adults. You are brave and strong and worthy of love. And I care because someone should, because every child deserves at least one person who fights for them. Let me be that person for you." Emma's face crumbled. The wall she had built around herself, the armor she had forged through years of abuse and neglect, shattered in an instant. She threw herself into Loretta's arms and sobbed. Loretta held her tight, rocking her, gently whispering words of comfort. "I've got you," she murmured. "I've got you. You're not alone anymore." They stayed like that for a long time, an 11-year-old girl who had lost everything and a 54-year-old woman who had found her purpose. Jonathan flew to Phoenix the next morning. He had news. "I've been talking to our lawyers," he said. "About Emma." Loretta looked at him. "What about her? She has no family, no one to take custody. The state will put her in foster care, probably group homes, given her age and trauma. Her chances of getting adopted are almost zero." Loretta felt her heart sink. She had seen what happened to kids like Emma in the system, shuffled from home to home, aging out with nothing, falling through the cracks. "There has to be another option," she said. Jonathan paused. "There is." He met her eyes. "You could adopt her." Loretta froze. "What?" "You're licensed as a foster parent through the foundation. Your background check is impeccable, and that girl responds to you in ways she doesn't respond to anyone else. I've seen it." Loretta shook her head slowly. "I'm 54 years old. I've never raised a child. I don't know anything about being a mother." "You know everything about being a mother," Jonathan said firmly. "You just never had the chance to prove it. You raised Lily for the first 3 years of her life. You loved her when her own father was too busy to notice what was happening. You saved her life. If that's not motherhood, I don't know what is." Loretta felt tears streaming down her face. "You really think I could do this? I think you're the only one who can." That night, Loretta sat with Emma in the shelter. "I need to ask you something," Loretta said, "and I want you to be completely honest with me." Emma looked at her warily. "Okay, the state is going to try to place you somewhere. Foster care, group homes. But there's another option if you want it." Emma's eyes widened. "What option?" "Me," Loretta said simply. "I could adopt you. You could come live with me, be part of my family." Emma stared at her. For a long moment, she didn't speak. "You want me," she finally whispered. "Yes." "But I'm broken," Emma said, her voice cracking. "I'm damaged. I don't know how to be normal. I'll just disappoint you." Loretta took her face in her hands. "Listen to me," she said fiercely. "I don't want normal. I want you, exactly as you are, broken pieces and all. We'll figure out the rest together." Emma's eyes filled with tears. "You promise, I promise." Emma lunged forward and hugged her so tight Loretta could barely breathe. "Yes," Emma sobbed. "Yes, I want to come with you. Please don't change your mind. Please don't leave me." "Never," Loretta said. "I will never leave you." The adoption process took 4 months. There were background checks, home visits, court appearances, mountains of paperwork that seemed designed to discourage anyone from trying. But Loretta pushed through it all. On May 15th, exactly 10 months after the wedding, that never was a family court judge signed the final papers. "Emma Marie Johnson," the judge announced. "Congratulations, you have a mother." Emma turned to Loretta with tears streaming down her face. "Mom," she said. The word was tentative. "Testing." Loretta pulled her into a hug. "That's right, baby girl. I'm your mom now, and nothing is ever going to change that." They walked out of the courthouse hand in hand into a bright spring day filled with possibility. Lily was waiting on the courthouse steps with Jonathan. When she saw Emma, she ran forward with her arms wide open. "Sister," she shouted. "Emma, you're my sister now." Emma caught her in a hug, laughing through her tears. "I guess I am," she said. Lily pulled back and looked at her seriously. "That means we have to share Lolo now. Is that okay?" Emma looked at Loretta. "More than okay." Jonathan watched them with tears in his eyes. He had lost so much. His wife. Almost his daughter. But standing here watching this improbable family come together, he felt something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The Claire Whitmore Foundation celebrated its first anniversary on January 3rd of the following year. In 12 months, they had recovered 87 children from trafficking situations across the country. They had reunited 63 families. They had provided resources and support to hundreds more. But for Loretta, the most important number was one. One daughter. One family. One chance at the life she had never allowed herself to imagine. The anniversary party was held at the foundation headquarters. Families who had been reunited came from across the country to celebrate. Children who had been rescued played together in the courtyard, their laughter echoing off the walls. Jonathan gave a speech about Claire, about her vision, about her belief that every child deserved protection and love. But then he called Loretta to the podium. She walked up reluctantly, uncomfortable with attention as always. Jonathan handed her the microphone. "I'm not good at speeches," she said. Her voice was rough with emotion. "I've spent my whole life trying to be invisible, trying not to take up space, trying not to be noticed." She paused, looking out at the crowd of survivors and families. "But I've learned something this year, something important." She found Emma in the crowd, standing beside Lily, both girls beaming up at her. "Being invisible has its uses," Loretta continued. "When you're invisible, you see things others miss. You hear things others ignore. You notice the children who are hurting, the families who are struggling, the monsters who hide in plain sight." Her voice grew stronger. "But there comes a time when invisible isn't enough. There comes a time when you have to stand up, speak out, make noise, be seen." She looked at the children in the courtyard. "Every single one of you matters. Your voices matter. Your stories matter. Never let anyone tell you that you're invisible. Never let anyone make you feel small. You are worthy of love. You are worthy of protection. You are worthy of a voice." The crowd was silent, hanging on every word. "I was a housekeeper for 35 years, Loretta said. "I cleaned floors and washed dishes and polished silver for people who never learned my name. But I also watched. I listened. I remembered. And when the time came, I acted." She paused. "You don't have to be rich to save a life. You don't have to be powerful to protect a child. You just have to care enough to try. You just have to be brave enough to speak up. You just have to believe that one person, one voice, one act of courage can change everything." She looked at Jonathan. "Mrs. Claire Whitmore believed that. She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. She trusted me with the most precious thing in her life. And I will spend the rest of my days honoring that trust." She looked at Emma. "My daughter," she said, the word still strange and wonderful on her tongue, was thrown away like garbage. Forgotten. Left to rot. But she survived. She fought, and now she's here healthy and happy and loved." Emma was crying openly. Lily had her arm around her. "Every child deserves that chance," Loretta said. "Every single one. And as long as I'm breathing, I will fight to give it to them." She raised her fist. For Claire, for Lily, for Emma, for all the invisible children still waiting to be found. The crowd erupted in cheers and applause. Loretta stepped down from the podium, embarrassed by the attention, but proud of what they had built. Jonathan met her with a hug. "Claire would be so proud of you," he said. Loretta shook her head. "She would be proud of all of us." That night, after the party ended and the guests went home, Loretta sat in her small apartment with her daughter. Emma was doing homework at the kitchen table, her brow furrowed in concentration. She had started school 3 months ago, struggling at first, but improving every day. She was smart, resilient, determined to make up for lost time. "Mom," she said without looking up, "can I ask you something?" "Anything, baby?" Emma set down her pencil. Do you ever regret it taking me in? I mean, your life was easier before." Loretta walked over and sat beside her. "My life was empty before," she said. I had work, I had routine, but I didn't have this. I didn't have you." Emma looked at her with uncertain eyes. "But I'm so much trouble. The nightmares, the panic attacks, the times I can't get out of bed." "You're not trouble," Loretta said firmly. "You're healing, and healing is hard work. But I would rather walk through the hard parts with you than walk through easy days alone." Emma leaned into her shoulder. "I love you, Mom." Loretta kissed the top of her head. "I love you too, baby girl, more than you'll ever know." They sat together in comfortable silence, mother and daughter bound not by blood but by something stronger. By choice. By love. By the refusal to give up on each other. 2 years later, on a warm July afternoon, Loretta stood in the garden of the Whitmore mansion. It was Lily's 6th birthday party. Children ran everywhere laughing and playing. Balloons floated in the breeze. A cake shaped like a castle sat on a table waiting to be cut. Emma, now 13, was helping coordinate games for the younger kids. She had grown so much in 2 years. She smiled now. She laughed. She had friends at school. She was learning to trust slowly but surely. Lily ran up to Loretta and grabbed her hand. "Lolo, come see my presents," she demanded. Loretta let herself be pulled toward the gift table. She looked around at the scene before her. Jonathan chatting with parents. Emma organizing children. Lily bouncing with excitement. This was her family now. Imperfect. Unconventional. Beautiful. Lolo Lily tugged her hand. "Are you okay?" Loretta smiled. "I'm perfect, baby girl." She thought about her mother who had spent her life being invisible. She thought about Claire who had seen her worth before she saw it herself. She thought about all the children they had saved, all the families they had reunited, all the monsters they had stopped. And she thought about Emma, her daughter, who had taught her that love didn't require blood. That family wasn't something you were born into, that it was something you chose every single day. Lily pulled her toward the presents. "Look at this one," the little girl said excitedly. "Emma got me a necklace. See, it has an angel on it." Loretta looked at the delicate silver pendant. "It's beautiful," she said. "Emma made it herself," Lily announced proudly. "She said it's to remind me that I always have angels watching over me." Loretta looked across the garden at Emma, who caught her eye and smiled. "She was right," Loretta said softly. "You do have angels, more than you know." Jonathan appeared beside her. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For everything. For saving Lily. For building the foundation. For becoming part of our family. For teaching me that the most valuable things in life can't be bought or sold." Loretta shook her head. "You gave me a chance when no one else would. You saw me when the world said I was invisible." Jonathan smiled. "You were never invisible, Loretta. You were just waiting for the right moment to be seen." He squeezed her shoulder and walked away to greet more guests. Loretta stood alone for a moment, watching the party swirl around her. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the years of silence, the promise to a dying woman, the dark places she had walked through, the children she had saved, the daughters she had found. She thought about her mother's words from so many years ago. Sometimes being invisible is how we survive. But Loretta had learned a different truth. Sometimes being invisible is how you see the things that need to change. Sometimes being silent is how you hear the cries that others ignore. Sometimes being small is how you slip through the cracks where children are hidden. And sometimes when the moment is right, you step out of the shadows and into the light. You raise your voice. You tell the truth. You become visible. And the whole world changes. Mom Emma called from across the garden, "Come help me with the piñata." Loretta smiled and walked toward her daughter, toward her family, toward the life she had never dared to dream of. Because 56 years ago, a little black girl in Mississippi had learned that the world didn't see people like her. But that little girl had grown up. She had watched. She had listened. She had remembered. And when the time came, she had spoken. She had saved children who had no one else to fight for them. She had built a family from the broken pieces others had thrown away. She had proven that courage doesn't require wealth or power or status. It just requires the willingness to act when action matters most. Loretta Mae Johnson had spent 35 years being invisible. But in the end, it was her invisibility that gave her the power to see what others couldn't, to notice what others ignored, to save what others had abandoned. And that was not weakness, that was strength, that was purpose, that was love made visible at last. As the sun began to set over the garden, casting everything in golden light, Lily ran to Loretta and threw her arms around her legs. "This is the best birthday ever," she declared. Loretta lifted her up and held her close. Emma joined them, wrapping her arms around both of them. Jonathan stood nearby watching his strange, beautiful family with tears in his eyes. And in that moment, surrounded by love, by laughter, by children who had been saved, and families who had been restored, Loretta Mae Johnson knew the truth that had always been waiting for her. She was not invisible. She was not forgotten. She was not small. She was a mother. She was a fighter. She was a light in the darkness. And her voice, the voice of one woman who refused to stay silent, had changed the world. Because the truth is simple, even if it takes a lifetime to learn. The invisible ones are not weak. They are watching. They are waiting. And when they finally speak, empires fall and children come home.